There's a quiet stress building inside the silver market, and it has nothing to do with headlines. It has to do with plumbing. Paper claims are growing, deliverable metal is not. And when those two drift too far apart, markets tend to respond in ways people don't expect. Today, we're translating a recent silver squeeze narrative into what actually matters structurally. Not predictions, not price targets, just mechanisms. Most silver futures contracts are never settled in metal. They are settled financially. That is normal. That is how futures markets are designed to function. The system works because only a small percentage of participants ever demand physical delivery. But that assumption is the foundation. As behavior shifts, even modestly, the system feels it quickly. The key distinction is registered versus eligible inventory. Registered silver is tagged and available for delivery. Eligible silver meets specifications, but it is not pledged for delivery unless its owner converts it. Total inventory can look large, but the deliverable portion is what actually matters during delivery months. Now layer on top elevated lease rates. Lease rates reflect the cost of borrowing physical metal. When that cost rises meaningfully, it signals tighter lendable supply or short-term dislocation. It does not guarantee a price move, but it does tell us something about stress inside the system. This becomes especially important around delivery checkpoints like first notice day. That is when paper holders must decide whether they want cash settlement or actual metal. Most of the time, the answer is cash. If that changes meaningfully, exchanges have tools. They can raise margins, they can adjust rules, they can influence behavior through capital requirements. That response function is critical. In our strategy, we are less focused on whether silver goes up tomorrow and more focused on how the venue clears when pressure rises. Markets do not break all at once. They compress, they tighten, they adapt. And this is where it becomes useful to follow these signals in real time. If you value understanding how delivery mechanics, liquidity pressure, and rule responses shape market outcomes, consider subscribing, not because it helps us, but because staying ahead of structural shifts gives you context most participants do not have. When you understand the plumbing, volatility becomes information instead of surprise. Now, it is important to stay grounded. Elevated lease rates can normalize. Inventory classifications can shift. Eligible metal can be converted into registered. Physical premiums can compress. Stress can fade without escalation. That is always possible. What would increase the probability of real structural strain is persistence. Registered inventory declining across multiple delivery cycles. Lease rates remaining elevated rather than mean reverting. Physical premiums widening across venues. And repeated exchange interventions that alter normal clearing behavior. What would invalidate the stress narrative is equally clear. Inventory stabilization, borrowing costs falling, delivery demand coming in ordinary. No need for aggressive rule responses. We do not anchor to a single date, we anchor to sequences. Confirmation matters more than headlines. Probabilities matter more than conviction. Quick note before we close. This discussion is educational and analytical only. It is not financial advice. Into the next delivery window, watch the plumbing. Watch how many contracts stand for delivery. Watch registered inventory behavior. Watch lease rates. Watch how the exchange responds. You do not need to predict the outcome. You just need to recognize when structure begins to matter more than narrative. And that is where real macro signals begin.